Welcome to the deep dive. We take stories, history, folklore, and we use them basically as a toolkit. A shortcut to understanding tricky situations. Yeah, and today we've got a really good one. It's a classic tale, Tenali Raman, and this supposedly amazing talking parrot. Great, a story about royal money, a clever trick, and maybe more importantly, how to think critically. Exactly. This isn't just story time. We're doing a deep dive, purely analytical. We want to pull out a specific, three-step method Tenali Raman used. The goal is simple. Show you how we broke down this too good to be true scenario, so you can spot similar things, even complex modern stuff, way faster. So the source material puts us right in the middle of King Christian of Norway's court. Think Viking era kingdom, lots of wealth, maybe. Things are a bit routine, yeah. The perfect place for someone to shake things up. Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. A merchant shows up one morning, and he's got a claim that's, well, it's pretty out there. Instantly gets everyone's attention, especially the king's. This is where it all kicks off. The grand entrance, the setup, right? The source describes him bringing in this huge ornate cage inside. A really vibrant green parrot. Looks the part, exotic, beautiful, in the sales pitch. It's incredible. He steps up and says something like, "Your Majesty, this bird, it's a miracle, talks like a person, answers deep questions, it can even see the future." You just picture the scene, right? The whole court, especially the king, they're leaning in, hooked. They're absolutely primed for something amazing. And this is where the deception really takes hold, because the parrot seems to deliver right away. Instantly it squawks out, "Long live the great king." Perfect line. Flattery ain't right at the top, and that's all it took. The king is overjoyed. Says it's the rarest thing he's ever seen, and boom, there's the cost of, well, believing too quickly, gullibility. You could say, The king immediately orders payment. How much was it again? 1,000 gold coins. Wow, that's a fortune. Based on what? One sentence exactly. Not on proof, not on testing. Just that one emotionally satisfying squawk. It wasn't just about the money. It was like the king totally switched off his critical thinking. Okay, but someone wasn't reaching for the royal treasury. Tenali Raman, he's watching all this happen. Yeah, the sources say he just smiled to himself quietly. Which brings us to the first step in his method. Question the premise. So why? Why the smile? Well, think about it. 1,000 gold coins for a talking bird based on one line of praise. The value just seemed way out of whack with the evidence. It sounded too good to be true. Precisely. Tenali immediately saw that an extraordinary claim, talking philosophy, future telling, needed extraordinary proof, not just a compliment. But hang on, why get involved? The king's happy, the court's entertained. Isn't Nally just asking for trouble by being the party pooper, risking his position? It's a good point, but I don't think it was cynicism. It was more like a responsible wisdom. The potential cost to the kingdom's money and the king's reputation, if this was fake, was huge. So high price, low proof. Big emotional reaction, that's a red flag, right? And notice he didn't storm up and accuse the merchant. He didn't challenge the king. He just paused, held back his belief, and started watching. That quiet observation is key, okay? So he holds off judgment and just observes. Which moves us nicely into the second part of this analysis framework. Dependency analysis, looking for patterns. Yeah, exactly. The king obviously loved his new bird. Tried talking to it all the time, asking it about what politics, right? Poetry, big questions. And apparently, the bird always came back with some clever phrase. Kept the illusion going strong. And this is the crucial bit Tenali spots. The parrot only ever seemed to talk when one specific person was around. The caretaker, that's the dependency. The miracle, the bird talking, required this external factor, this caretaker, to be present. So if you're looking at, say, a new tech gadget or a crazy investment scheme today, or even a political narrative that seems just perfectly crafted, and you notice the amazing results only happen when a certain person or a certain condition or maybe a specific piece of software is running things, that's your caretaker, that's the dependency. It signals that the amazing ability probably isn't inherent to the thing itself. The bird, the tech, whatever the environment, is rigged somehow. So if you want to find the trick, you look for what it depends on. It's surprisingly relevant today, isn't it? Totally. Think about like a viral video or meme sometimes. Its power, its voice depends entirely on the algorithm. The caretaker feeding it to just the right audience. An echo chamber, take it out of that environment, show it to a neutral crowd, and poof, the magic disappears. The voice fails. Tenali basically understood that real things work consistently, without needing a special handler every time. And that dependency, that reliance on the caretaker, was about to break down, which leads to the test. The ultimate test for dependency is always removal. What happens when the caretaker isn't there? And the reason it happened is so mundane. The caretaker got sick, couldn't come to court one day. Simple human stuff trips up the grand illusion. So that evening, the king wants to show off his brilliant bird to some ministers, or something, tries to get up to talk, but nothing. Silence. No matter how much the king pleaded or commanded, the bird just sat there because its support system, the caretaker, was gone. That silence was the proof. It confirmed everything Tenali suspected. Remove the operator, the performance collapses. The king was understandably furious, but he turned that anger into action. He ordered Tenali Raman, figure out why my parrot won't talk. And this shifts us right into the third, final pillar of Tenali's method. Investigate the mechanism. You suspect something's up. You've seen the dependency fail. Now you need the hard evidence of how the trick actually worked, right? Suspicion isn't proof. Tenali had to find the how. He didn't just stand there guessing. He approached it like, wow, almost like a forensic job. He went right up to the cage, examined it really closely, not looking at the pretty bird anymore, but at the cage itself, the structure. Looking past the appearance, focusing on the, let's call it, the engineering. And the sources give us these great little details. The aha moment specific, yeah. What did he find? Okay, 3 things first. Tucked away, almost hidden behind where the parrot sat, its perch, there was a tiny reed pipe. Like a little tube, an acoustic funnel basically. Second, he noticed this pipe wasn't just sitting there. It went through a small neat hole in the wall of the king's chamber. Okay, so it's connected to something outside the cage. And third, he followed. It went through the wall into the small room right next door. And there he finds a boy just sitting there, whispering into the other end of a long tube. Wow. That was the voice source. The whole thing was just voice throwing. Simple acoustics, a pipe, a tube, and a hidden accomplice. It's kind of brilliant in its simplicity though. All that fuss. The 1,000 gold coins resting on a kid whispering through a pipe. Low-tech, high-stakes deception. Imagine the nerve of that merchant, knowing his entire fortune depended on nobody noticing. A pipe and a kid in the next room. That's not just fraud, it's like stage magic applied to finance, yeah. The mechanism was just the link, wasn't it, between the hidden input, the boy whispering, and the output. Everyone saw the talking parrot. So the lesson for today: if you're investigating some big claim, like an investment promising impossible returns, or some miracle cure, or anything that seems too good to be true, Don't just stare at the amazing result. Look for the hidden plumbing. Look for that simple connection, that red pipe linking the hidden source to what you're being shown. Find the mechanism underneath the fancy surface. So Tenali brings the boy the pipe. The whole setup out into the court. Game over, the trick is exposed, and the king's reaction is interesting. The source says he was both shocked and amused, right? Not just angry, maybe a little impressed by the cleverness of it all. He wasn't tricked by magic, just by some smart theatrical engineering. The truth is out. But then comes the question of what to do about it, justice. And this is where Tenali really shines, not just as an analyst, but as like a wise advisor. The king's probably ready to throw the book at the merchant. Prison may be worse, but Tenali steps in with something much smarter, perfectly tailored to the crime itself. No violence, just logic. What did he suggest? He basically smiled and said to the king something like, "Your Majesty, just make the merchant do what he claimed. Make him teach his parrot to actually speak without any help. Make him deliver the impossible." Or Tenali added, make him return every single gold coin he took. That's brilliant. It's the perfect consequence. Either achieve the miracle you sold, which you can't because the parent was never the source, the boy was, or face the direct financial penalty for the lie. The merchant's bluff is called completely. He had no choice, right? He couldn't make the parrot talk for real, so he had to confess, return the gold. A total win for truth and the treasury. Which brings us right back to the core lesson from the source material. Wisdom sees beyond appearances. Not everything that talks has truth behind it. It's such a neat package this old story basically hands you, the listener, a ready-to-use critical thinking framework. Let's just quickly recap it, synthesize it for you. Tenali's process works just as well today. 1. Question the premise. If the claim or the payoff seems wildly out of proportion to the initial evidence, like 1,000 gold coins for one squaw, just pause, don't buy in emotionally. Demand real proof. 2. Observe the patterns, or what we call dependency analysis. If the amazing result only ever happens when a specific person, condition, or system, the caretaker, is involved, suspect rigging, look for that dependency. And 3. Investigate the mechanism. Don't stop at suspicion, dig deeper. Look past the flashy result, the talking parrot, and find the simple, often hidden connection, the pipe and the boy that links the real input to the illusory output. Find the how. If you run through those steps, you pretty much bypass the emotional traps. The confirmation bias gets straight to the structure underneath you. The illusion only works if you accept the surface without asking about the supports holding it up. That leads us perfectly into our final thought for you to take away. Something to chew on. It comes directly from that idea of silence and dependency. Think about this in the story. The caretaker getting sick, that temporary failure of the support system, was what broke the illusion. The silence was the key. So the question for you is, what's the modern equivalent of the caretaker being ill? What happens today when the hidden support structure for a big, widely accepted narrative, maybe technological, financial, political, unexpectedly fails or glitches? Where does the usual noise suddenly stop? And in that unexpected silence, what simple hidden pipe might be revealed? Behind the beautiful perch everyone was admiring, what gets exposed when the support fails? That's what you should be looking for. Something to think about, definitely. Well, that's our deep dive for this time. Thanks for exploring this with us. Yeah, see you next time.